I'm very happy to be here at the Israeli Air Force Center with the director since it started, Simcha Salach. Thank you for having us. Salach, sorry, my Iraqi language translation is not as good as it should be. Thank you. She's going to tell us a little bit about what the center does and some interesting stories. So welcome.
Thank you, Barry.
So tell us a little bit about what the center does and why it's important to the Israeli Air Force and to the defense of Israel.
The center, I will describe it as an investment center. We are investing in Israel's future. And we have created something which, a model that you can't find anywhere else in Israel or in the world, where a military force joins with veterans of the military, of the Air Force, to invest in Israel's future. And we do that in three main activities and programs. One is the IAF Youth Leadership Training Program. We train the next generation, the 15, 16, 17-year-olds of Israel, mostly from challenged communities, and send a strong message to them, which is Israel needs you. We are here, we are reaching out for you, and we want you to be part of our leadership of the future of Israel. The second, we have established an Air and Space Strategic Research Institute, which, if we can't produce airplanes, we produce knowledge. And we try to improve and give back to our Air Force, but also to the entire world, and most of it also the United States, who is the biggest ally of the State of Israel. And the third is we have social and cultural programs and activities for the bereaved families. But it's not financial support rather than another message. You are part of the Israeli families no matter what you lost, and you lost your loved ones, and you have the ultimate price for the defense of the State of Israel. But the Israel Air Force is a family, and you are part of our family forever. And here we are for you. So when we do the annual bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs to the orphans, we do that because we feel like we are now responsible for them. When we do the annual Widows Spring Retreat, we send a message to tell the widows that it's okay to go to a retreat, to live life again. Even with the bereavement, with the loss, with the tragedy, and we are there for them.
Now you have a Hall of the Fallen here. Tell us about that. Yeah, that was incredible to see.
We have a memorial hall, but we decided, since the Air Force has a central memorial on a mountain on the way to Jerusalem, we've decided to keep their memory alive in a way that can inspire the young generation. And that where we do have computers, and we have the database on each and every one of the fallens. The Air Force lost 1,583 since 1948 until a few months ago. And what we did, we interviewed widows, bereaved parents, orphans, fellow pilots and officers who served with them. And we covered the walls with inspiring quotes of what they told us about what memory is, what life is, what sacrifice means. I can give you one quote from one of the widows. And she was interviewed when she was celebrating the bar mitzvah of her son. And there was all laughter and joy. And then she went aside and started crying. And then we asked why. And she said, and that's the quote, because in every joy, the sadness comes over. Because no joy or celebration is complete when my husband, the father of my children, is not present to experience it.
Wow.
So going now back to the Youth Leadership Training Program, when they go into the Memorial Hall and they read those quotes. There are no names. It doesn't say who said them. But the main question is, who said it? Why they said it? What's the message behind it? What do you learn from that? And when they know who said that and why, they understand what is requested of them when they get to reach the age where they have to serve the country, but not just in the military. The message is to serve the country, to serve the people, to serve the society, to build a future in the state of Israel, to bring back the Zionist values that I grew up on, not to give up on Israel.
So you got some stories, a couple that I thought were really terrific. Can you share one or two?
Yes, I can share the story of Nathan, who came from an Ethiopian background. His parents were brought to Israel. He was 4-year-old. It ended up to be very deprived and broken home. Father unemployed, mother also struggling with brothers and sisters, and he dropped out of school at the age of 14, ended up in the streets of the city of Ramle, and he was picked up very soon by the gangs and started dealing with drugs. And he was arrested and had a criminal record. Nathan, because of criminal records in Israel by law, couldn't serve in the military. Nathan, the only thing, the bright thing, the only thing that he had inspired in life was to become a soldier, to enlist and to wear a uniform. And when we met him and brought him to the youth leadership training program, he still couldn't believe. We had to push him and motivate him to stay on, to go back to school, to finish his high school studies, and to try and work on his behalf to erase his criminal records. He graduated almost 2 years ago, and the military, the IDF said, sorry, you have a criminal record. He became 18, you can't enlist. But the Air Force, the personnel division of the Air Force did not leave him and kept on fighting the authorities within the military until they got him a few months ago. The news that his criminal record was erased, he has a clean sheet, and he can enlist.
And where is he now?
He's now still not enlisted yet, but he's going to be enlisted. You can imagine the joy, you can imagine the happiness. I mean, he broke and he said, I did all this training program at the Air Force Center for 2 years. I pushed myself. I completed my high school studies, and still they don't want me. It was really minutes of going back to the streets and dealing drugs. And we kept on giving him. And there was an Ethiopian soldier, officer, Captain Arege, who was also from Ethiopian religion, who became his surrogate sort of sister or mother. She finished and completed her military service, but she kept on watching Nathan and pushing him and driving him. That we are all going to go to that day when he's going to be enlisting. We will cheer him and keep him, because I know that Nathan will not go back to the streets. Nathan will do something meaningful for his own family, for his own life, and eventually for the state of Israel.
That's wonderful. You had another one?
Yes, one of the programs that I mentioned that we do is that we have cultural and social programs for the bereaved families. And one of them is an Hanukkah event. You know, the celebration of lights, the miracles that happened. We did have a family that they lost their fathers in the 70s, who had 2 sons, Ra'anan and Kfir, who both became fighter pilots. Ra'anan was 4-year-old and Kfir was 7-year-old when they lost their father. They grew up, and as once Ranan told me, I grew up on a black and white father. I said,
Just
what
the
does it
pictures?
mean? Because the picture were only black and white when they lost their father. You can imagine to have two sons and to sign up and to agree, the mother, the widow, who agreed that her two sons will go and become fighter pilots. They came with their children to lead the candelabra one day on stage.
That's wonderful.
So, and they are the one who are inspiring, because their mother is the chairman of the widows committee, and their mother and the other widows, who are the veteran widows, they are the one who welcomes, who foster, who care for the young widows.
So,
I can tell you another story if I may.
please, yeah, go ahead.
I attended one of the widows' leadership spring retreats that we do annually, and there is a whole session that is conducted by the widows themselves. So I was sitting on the side, and there was a young widow there who lost her husband. It was November, Second Lebanon War. And the spring retreat was next year in April. So it was really too soon. But she came. They convinced her to come to the retreat. And she was sitting there. And she had tears and she was sad. And one of the veterans, the veteran widows, approached her. They were sitting in a circle and she said, I will not start this session until she smiles. And she says, why do you want me to smile? And she said, because from now on you're gonna smile. Because you're gonna suffer, and you're gonna suffer so much. I was shocked. How dare she tell her like that? That's the message? This is the therapeutic session? And she said, you're gonna suffer because you know what? Because you're gonna dream. And he's gonna come in your dreams. He's gonna stay gorgeous, beautiful, young and handsome, and you're gonna be a wrinkled old lady as I am. And that's gonna haunt you. Guess what? The young widow smiled and laughed.
It's a great story.
So that's what we do here.
I got
And
it.
it's actually the people themselves that we are serving are doing it, and going back to Israel, to the society, to do more of what we are giving them here.
So it's a spectacularly beautiful place, built on an old Air Force base.
Yes.
If somebody wants to help and get involved, where do they find out information?
www.iafcenterfoundation.org. That's our website. You can read more of what we do. You can read some of the other personal stories of the people that we touched, and they touched us more than we touched them. And you can also support us online. We are registered in the US for tax purposes.
501c3?
Exactly, yes. And also in Israel. And we encourage everyone who thinks to or plans a visit to Israel to come to the Air Force Center in Israel. It's in Herzliya, it's the center of the country. It's very easy to get here. It's a free parking place. And we will welcome you with open arms.
She's a
are
great
doing.
host. It's a beautiful place, and we're going to put on the screen right here where you can go to find out more. Simcha.
But I
Thanks
want
so
to give
much.
the credit, thank you so much, but the credit has to go to the Air Force commanders who had the vision to build this center. And to the entire Air Force of all generations until today, because without the Air Force support, we wouldn't be able to do what we are doing here at the Air Force Center.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Because You Asked. I'm Barry Nussbaum. You can go to our website, AmericanTruthProject.org, or write to me at Barry@AmericanTruthProject.org. I promise to get back to all of you. Remember to register. It's always free.